How many times have you said, "I'm fine," when deep down, you weren't? There's a kind of exhaustion that isn't physical. It comes from the soul. A feeling of being disconnected from your own life, as if something essential was lost along the way. Carl Jung believed this emptiness wasn't a flaw, but a sign. A silent signal calling you to rediscover meaning, truth, and depth. In this video, a single thought may help you see life through a different lens, and perhaps, for the first time in a long while, feel that it's truly worth living. This isn't about fleeting motivation, but about a deep understanding, rooted in psychology and philosophy, that can quietly transform the way you experience life. There are moments when life seems to unfold in silence, as if the days pass before our eyes without leaving a trace. We wake up, fulfill our obligations, respond to expectations, and before we know it, we're just surviving. There's no enthusiasm, no real presence. There's an invisible weight, hard to explain, but impossible to ignore. It's as if we've become disconnected from something essential, but we can't quite name it. It's not explicit sadness, nor clear pain. It's absence, a lack of meaning. And this feeling, as uncomfortable as it is, carries one of the most important questions a person can ask themselves. Why do I keep living this way if I no longer feel anything? Carl Jung realized that many people reach this point not out of weakness, but from excessive adaptation. We adjust our desires, suppress our impulses, distort who we are just to fit into structures that promise safety, but the cost is high. Disconnection from ourselves. The thought that can change everything begins here, in that recognition. Something isn't right, not outside of you, but within. And maybe the problem isn't the world, the circumstances, or the people around you. Maybe it's how far you've strayed from what once made you feel alive. Simply recognizing this begins to tear through the fog of apathy. We live in a time where everything must be productive, useful, measurable. But the human soul doesn't operate by these standards. It longs for meaning, presence, and depth. Jung said, most of our modern suffering comes from a loss of meaning. And here lies the thought that can change everything. It's not that life has lost its beauty. It's that you've lost contact with what gives life its beauty. It's an internal realignment, a change in direction. Once you understand this, you begin to realize that your exhaustion isn't just physical, and that the emptiness you feel is in fact a call to reconnect with something more genuine. Living on autopilot is easy. Most people do it for years. But there comes a point when autopilot no longer sustains the soul. And that's when the thought that can change everything breaks through. A disruption, a pause, a rupture in the pattern. You realize you can no longer just function. You need to feel again. And that doesn't require anything external. It doesn't take a career shift, a perfect relationship, or some dramatic life event. It only takes the courage to look inward and admit, I want more than this. That thought is simple, yet profound. It doesn't fix everything, but it opens a crack. And through that crack, life can begin to enter again. And it's through that opening that we begin to understand what lies behind the lack of meaning and what can be done about it. There are feelings that don't go away, no matter how much we try to ignore them. A silent discomfort, a restlessness that keeps coming back, especially when everything seems fine on the surface. You fulfill your roles, remain functional, even smile at others. But deep down, something pulses. A sense that you're not where you're supposed to be, that you're living something incomplete, as if important parts of yourself were lost along the way. Carl Jung called this the call of the soul, not in a mystical sense, but as a natural reaction of the psyche when it feels repressed, neglected, or forgotten. When you drift too far from what is essential, this call shows up, sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as boredom, and sometimes as a nameless sadness. Many people suffer emotionally without even realizing it. The body starts reacting, the mind tires easily, and small pleasures no longer spark excitement. The most dangerous part is that this often gets dismissed as a bad phase, stress from routine, or just plain fatigue. But Jung showed that the soul, or the self, as he called it, becomes ill when we spend too much time living only outwardly, when we deny our desires, suppress what we feel, or accept lives that no longer represent who we are. The soul doesn't scream, it whispers. And those whispers turn into symptoms. And if the symptoms are ignored, they become crises. The call of the soul is a warning. You can't keep living on the surface. Something within you is asking for depth, for truth, for meaning. From a young age, we learn to please, to obey, to follow rules. That helps us coexist with others, but it also distances us from ourselves. We start molding, adapting, fitting in, until our identity becomes a collection of masks. And the farther we are from who we really are, the louder the soul pushes back. The problem is, most people only notice this when they've already reached their limit. Jung said the greatest obstacle to transformation is the illusion that everything is fine. Excessive adaptation kills the life force. And when there's no life force, all that's left is repetition. That's why the soul's call usually shows up in moments of crisis, extreme exhaustion, or existential emptiness. It's in those moments that everything you've suppressed starts demanding space again. It may sound strange, but discomfort is one of the most honest forms of wisdom. It shows you've gone beyond what your psyche can silently endure. More than that, it points you in a direction, not with ready-made answers, but with essential questions. Who am I, really? What am I ignoring within myself? When did I start losing myself? These questions don't come out of nowhere. They are signs that something is awakening inside you. The call of the soul doesn't come to destroy what you've built. It comes to remind you that you don't have to keep being who you learned to be if that no longer makes sense. But hearing this call is only the beginning. The next step is understanding how we disconnected from ourselves and what can bring us back. One of the deepest human pains is the feeling of living without purpose. It doesn't matter how much you've achieved. If meaning is missing, everything feels incomplete. The problem is that we often confuse meaning with external goals. We believe it will come when we reach a certain position, buy something we desire, please others, or receive recognition. But true meaning doesn't come from the outside. It arises from alignment with what moves us on the inside, even if it's hard to put into words. Carl Jung believed that the loss of meaning was one of the main causes of psychological suffering, and that rediscovering it requires the courage to look at your own life with honesty and ask, am I living in a way that is true to who I really am? When life gets too noisy, it's easy to get lost. The routine swallows our days, obligations pile up, and having time to think seems like an unreachable luxury. But the meaning of life rarely reveals itself in the noise. It reveals itself in silence. It's in the space between tasks, in the pause, in moments of fatigue that the thoughts we avoid begin to surface. Uncomfortable questions, old desires, memories we've tried to bury. All of it holds clues to what truly matters. Reconnecting with life's meaning isn't about discovering some new absolute truth. It's about remembering what, deep down, you've always known, and what you may have set aside out of fear, habit, or the need for approval. Emotional emptiness isn't just the absence of feeling. Often, it reflects a life lived to meet expectations, not to express authenticity. When you get used to staying silent to keep the peace, accepting what you don't want to avoid conflict, or pretending everything's fine just to not bother anyone, you slowly disconnect from yourself. And by the time you realize it, you no longer know what you enjoy, what you want, or what you feel. Rediscovering meaning involves recovering that lost connection. It means remembering what once moved you, what used to inspire you, what made time feel like it stopped. Sometimes, you don't need to discover something new. You just need the courage to return to what was always true. It's common to think of the meaning of life as something grand, a unique, definitive purpose. But in reality, it's often found in small daily choices. It's in the way you take care of yourself, in the conversations you value, in the moments you allow yourself to be real. Living with meaning doesn't mean having everything under control. It means acting with presence, intention, and truth. It means not abandoning yourself in your decisions, even in the smallest ones. Jung said that the meaning of life is not something ready-made. It's built through the relationship we develop with ourselves over time. And every act of honesty toward yourself strengthens that bond. But for this reconnection to be real, we must face something many avoid: the unconscious content we hide from ourselves. Much of what we feel, think, and decide doesn't come from conscious reasoning, but from deeper layers of the mind, the unconscious. Carl Jung devoted much of his work to understanding this hidden dimension, affirming that it silently influences almost everything in our lives. In the unconscious lie unresolved traumas, repressed desires, old fears, and aspects of ourselves we've learned to hide, believing they wouldn't be accepted by others, or even by ourselves. Jung called this the shadow. The problem is that what we don't accept in ourselves doesn't disappear. It simply retreats inward, where it starts acting indirectly, sabotaging us, making us sick, or trapping us in repetitive patterns. The first step toward approaching the unconscious is recognizing resistance. It's not easy to admit there are parts of ourselves we don't know. It's easier to distract ourselves, blame others, or say, "That's just life." But life only repeats itself when we refuse to truly look inward. Jung said, "What you do not bring to consciousness appears in your life as fate." In other words, as long as we don't confront our wounds, they will continue to shape our choices, in relationships, in work, and in the way we treat ourselves. Facing the unconscious is, therefore, an act of courage. It means admitting there is more to you than the image you created to survive. The unconscious expresses itself through symbols. It often speaks through dreams, sudden impulses, repeated life patterns, or intense emotions that feel out of proportion. These signals aren't random. They're internal messages, expressions of neglected parts of the psyche that want to be acknowledged. A recurring dream, for example, might reveal a stifled desire. Excessive anger could be covering up old pain. An irrational fear may have roots in unprocessed experiences. When you begin to pay attention to these signs, you stop being a victim of what you feel and start becoming responsible for understanding what's going on inside you. This is a crucial step in the process of individuation, the path toward building a more authentic, conscious, and integrated identity. Many people believe that growth means eliminating the negative parts of themselves. But Jung was clear. The goal isn't to destroy the shadow. It's to integrate it. You don't need to become perfect, but whole. That means recognizing your inner conflicts, accepting your contradictions, and understanding that light and shadow are part of the same being. Integrating the unconscious doesn't happen all at once. It's a continuous process of self-observation, self-knowledge, and humility. And as you begin to embrace your rejected parts, you start to feel more lightness, more freedom, and more truth in the choices you make. Because now you're not living by automatic reactions, but building a life with awareness. Yet, even after this deep encounter with the unconscious, one essential question remains. What, after all, reconnects us with what is truly human? The way we perceive life is directly tied to how we see ourselves. When someone feels like life has lost its spark, it often reveals a disconnection from their own essence. After all, it's impossible to live with passion while constantly rejecting yourself. Loving life, then, is not just about admiring what's out there. It's about learning to respect what lives within. This means embracing your own story, with all its flaws and imperfections, and recognizing that even in pain, there is value. As you begin to welcome yourself, you also begin to notice beauty in the smallest details, things that once went unnoticed. The world stops being a place of judgment and becomes a space of discovery. Many people carry an idealized image of who they should be. They punish themselves for not living up to this imagined standard. This constant self-demand creates guilt, shame, comparison, and a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from the body, but from the soul. Self-love is not selfishness, nor vanity. It is an internal posture of respect for who you are today, who you once were, and who you still have the potential to become. Jung said, "What you resist persists." Denying who you are only increases the distance between you and the life you wish to live. Reconciliation with yourself is a necessary step toward opening up to life's flow with greater ease and honesty. Loving yourself doesn't mean feeling good all the time or always believing you are enough. There are hard days. There are confusing emotions. There are setbacks. But real love doesn't rely on performance. It reveals itself in your willingness to stay present, even when you're in pieces. It's an internal gaze that doesn't abandon you, even in moments of shame, failure, or doubt. That loving presence toward yourself changes the way you relate to the world. People who have learned to love themselves honestly become more open, more compassionate, and less dependent on external validation. And this allows them to live with greater emotional autonomy. When you stop fighting yourself, something changes profoundly. The masks fall. The justifications lose their purpose. A quiet freedom arises, hard to describe, but impossible to ignore. Loving life inevitably involves a deeply personal act of acceptance. This is where I begin, with all that I am, with all that I've lived. This starting point doesn't require you to be at your best. It only requires the willingness to look at yourself with more humanity. From there, life starts to make more sense, because it's no longer an escape or an obligation, but an expression of your deepest truth. But even when we accept ourselves, something still challenges us. Time. The awareness of our own impermanence reshapes how we feel, how we live, and how we choose. Many people believe that starting over requires changing everything: your job, your city, your relationship, your environment. But more often than not, true renewal doesn't begin on the outside. It begins within. It begins when something shifts in the way you relate to what you feel, what you think, and what you long for. A new beginning doesn't require a new setting, but a new awareness. It's when you stop waiting for life to return to what it once was, and start accepting that maybe it never will, and that's okay. Life is in constant transformation, and trying to keep everything under control is a struggle against the very nature of existence. To start over is often to accept that some wounds will never fully disappear. They don't need to vanish for you to move forward, they just need to stop holding you back. Jung spoke about the importance of integration, transforming pain into part of your experience, rather than letting it define your identity. This requires maturity, understanding that life will never be perfect, but it can still be real. That you may never feel complete, but you can be whole. A new beginning isn't the point where everything is resolved. It's where you choose to keep going, even without all the answers. It's when you learn to walk with what you feel, instead of trying to eliminate it at all costs. Starting over isn't a specific date marked on a calendar. It's a quiet decision that repeats itself every day, often in subtle ways. It's getting out of bed even when you don't feel like it. It's trying again, even when you're afraid. It's continuing, even with doubts. There's no glamour in this process. The beginning is often discreet, nearly invisible. But that's exactly where its strength lies. When you choose to keep going, even in your vulnerability, you're declaring that life is still worth living. Not because everything is right, but because there is something in you that refuses to give up. That small act, repeated day after day, changes everything over time. After going through moments of disconnection, crisis, confrontation with the unconscious, and reconnection with meaning, it's impossible to be the same person. And that's not a problem, it's growth. So often we hope to go back to who we were before the pain, before the trauma, before the loss. But the truth is, suffering shapes us. It deepens, reveals, and transforms. A new beginning happens when you stop trying to return to an old version of yourself and start building something new from who you've become. It's when you understand that every experience brought you here, and from here, you can live with more awareness, more wholeness, and more truth. Carl Jung doesn't offer you ready-made formulas. He offers you a mirror, and sometimes, looking within is all we need to rediscover meaning. Maybe after today, you won't change the world around you, but you can change the way you see it. And that, in itself, is already a revolution.